Welcome to Martini Time. It's that time again. Here we are on Tuesday in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world, but then you too are at the center of the world. So, what shall we talk about today? And I just realized I wanted to talk about Trump and Iran because that's in the news, and it's hot news right now, right off the stove. We're cooking. Don't know what the meal's going to be. And I have a friend of mine who's from Iran, and I've learned a lot about Iran from him. And I also read Joseph Campbell, mythology, and the origin of worldviews. And it's very ironic that the worldview that we are currently operating in the West comes from Persia. And it's a very ancient civilization. And before it was Iran, it was called Persia, and covered a large space. And it was really the dividing line between India and China, and India and Asia, and the Eastern worldviews or mythologies, and the West, which is divided between Christianity and paganism of Europe. So Iran, Persia sits right in the middle. It's kind of like a watershed, and the water flows off both sides into India or into the Middle East and into Western civilization. And these, there are, Joseph Campbell pointed this out. I've been reading about this today. And there are three fundamental worldviews that are available to humanity in the larger sense. And the first one came out of the pagan religions of the goddess, which was basically a life of food, killing, being eaten, and eating. Life was food. Life was bloody. You wore animal skins. You were hunters. And this was a bloody existence, killing. And so there was an affirmation of this in these early religions. And then around 800 years before Christ, the civilizations were growing in the planting areas like the India and Mesopotamia, and there was a excess of grain now, and so there was a turning away from the blood and guts of killing and eating, and it was kind of like a world denial. Vegetarianism would be the offshoot of that. I just don't want to kill anymore. I'm done with it. Turn away. And this also began the traditions of yoga, Samkhya, and all of the forest traditions of leaving the world. Go live in a monastery. Go live in the woods, and drop this. The world is it's the idea that you had this pure soul, and the world was corrupting it, and so you wanted to go up and end being reincarnated in this carnage, and purify the soul. So it was a turning away, and so you had a monastic class grow, the forest yogis, and who turned away from the world and just meditated to purify their souls so they could stop the carnage. See, but then a third view. So we had this two views here of total affirmation and negation. And these two views are still working in us, but there was a third view which was offered by Zoroaster, or Zarathustra, and Zoroastrianism. And this was the religion of Persia. And Zoroaster was the legend, who was a prophet. And this was before the Hebrews were taken captive in Babylon. So this is this is 1,000 years before Christ, maybe, I'm not sure. Very old. But what Zoroaster saw was that there was and this, see, the problem is this question of evil. So this was so. Zoroaster said, well, there was, and I can't think, Mazda something. Anyway, there was a God of light, created the world, the God of goodness and light. But then there was a God of darkness, and he began to attack the God of light and try and corrupt it. So there was a cosmic war going on between the God of light and the God of darkness. And the way the prophecy went was that this war would continue until finally, at the end of time, the God of light would triumph over the God of darkness, and the original unity would be restored. And so mankind was given a choice. It was your duty to join forces with God, with the sun, be the sons of light, and fight against the sons of the devil, of darkness, you see, and triumph in the end when all of the fallen would rise up again and sit on the right hand of God, you see. And there would be a prophet, a savior, who would come and bring about this Armageddon. Doesn't this sound familiar? So this was so then the Jews, the Hebrews, were held captive in Babylon, and the Persian king Darius released the Jews, and so they went back to Israel, and they took this mythology with them, incorporated it into Genesis. The only difference was that in Genesis, Yahweh, who's the God of light, you see, and the devil, who is the God of darkness, did not create evil or bring sins into the world. It was man who did it, you see. So Adam and Eve brought sin upon the world. Death, labor, darkness, troubles, you see. So man did it. In Zoroaster, it was two gods, light and darkness, fighting it out. And man had to choose which one, you see. Isn't that interesting, you see? So this whole idea of Zoroaster was that you can correct the world. The world is fallen. The world is contaminated by illegal immigrants or whatever. In other words, the world is contaminated by, the light is contaminated with darkness, and it's your duty to correct this, you see, correct nature. Restore order, restore America to its original oneness, you see. So a lot of this is just battered around today. We don't really understand the context in it. So the whole idea of correcting nature was a Western idea which came out of Zoroaster and Zoroastrianism. The idea that you can fix it, you see. And the other two options were you just accept it, or you leave it, or you fix it. You see the three choices there? And they're all mixed up today. Take Eckhart Tolle, for instance. He says that if you can't accept a situation and you can't fix it, then leave it. All else is madness. Well, that's a reworking of this. But the whole idea here is that the Western world, our mythological worldview, now a worldview is not conscious, it's unconscious. I mean, a worldview is like a framework. You look at a picture, and the picture is framed. So if you have a triangular frame, the picture is going to be triangular. But if you are inside the picture, I'll take a fishbowl. So if you had a triangular fishbowl, and you're inside that as the fish, you can't see the triangle. You can only see it if you're outside of it. So we can see the paradigms of other cultures, but we can't see our own. Our own is unconscious. It's a fishbowl. And so the fishbowl of the Western world has been, basically, and Christianity has been to fix the world and make it better, get saved. Fix your, the whole idea is in time and a progression towards a better good, you see. When we're looking at Trump and Iran, we're really struggling with a very old, ancient civilization. that goes back prior to the Hebrew Bible and the Christian framework in which we see the world, you see. But today, all these are maps. And they're all available now, so we get very confused. For instance, if you practice yoga, when I first went into yoga, it was like I wanted to be fixed. So I was going to practice yoga to fix myself. And so this practice of classical yoga is that you fix yourself through the practice of yoga. You do the exercises and the meditation and the japa, and and don't eat meat, and stop drinking martinis. Don't smoke. In other words, you're going to purify yourself. You're going to fix yourself. And then another way would be guru yoga. Now, you see my guru. When you practice guru yoga, now you are going to get a guru to help fix you. So, excuse me. So I was just looking at in Buddhism, there are two ways to practice Buddhism. One is the way of the monkey, and one is the way of the kitten. The way of the monkey is that the monkey clings to the mother as it jumps through the trees. So you have to, through your own effort, you have to save yourself. And the other one is the way of the kitten, where the mother cat picks the kitten up and takes it. So you're dependent upon the mother cat to save you. So either way, you're gonna save yourself. You're gonna let the Savior fix you. Jesus or the Guru or whatever will save you, or God or whatever. So there's so many maps out there today, and it's very confusing because they're all integrated and layered, and we're using one map for one thing and one map for another. Show you how confusing it is. Take conservatives and liberals. Now, the basic conservative idea is that the individual businessman, the individual must save himself. Don't depend on the government to save you. You see, you save yourself. Pull yourself. You don't need safety nets. You don't need all this government. You don't need the cat. You're a monkey. You cling. You through your own effort, raise yourself up and become successful, like Trump. You see, you don't depend on people. You don't get. If you need help, you don't depend on the government. Self-reliance. You see. But then when they switch, when the the liberals, now this is where the topsy-turvy map. So the liberals then, when concerning economics, say, well, you need the government to help. You can't do it all yourself. You need some help from the government. And the conservatives, no help, no help. And so, but then when they switch to the religious side, they flip. So then the conservatives say, well, yes, you need God to help you. You can't save yourself. You need Jesus. And the liberals are saying, no, you practice yoga and Buddhism and all this. You can save yourself. So isn't that interesting? So I'll let it go with that. Thanks for dropping in.